Hello, here is BB Walker. Welcome back to another Saturday video. Today we will be continuing our last week topic, which is the DSP and the voice editing. So today we will continue and make some advanced features about harmony, about variation and detailed setup of the voice. So let's get started. Alright, so we are in our super steady mode, and this is the continuation of the first part about the DSP processing. So let's get started, and I will explain you firstly this harmony effect. In the previous video I wasn't able to make it works, but the reason why this was very simple, and now I'll explain. So first of all, let's prepare some nice voices from for the left and the right. Here is some Galaxy XP. Let's change it to something, let's call it maybe something nice and banjo. Okay, banjo will be nice. I'm looking for something very light, not very aggressive, delicate sound for the left hand. For the right hand, we get grand piano, and I propose to change something, something guitars, very simple, nice steel guitar maybe. Okay, so we got on the left this banjo, and on the right one we got this guitar. So I hope it's seen. If you, of course, this video is advanced. If you don't know how to set up these voices and what I am doing here right now, please refer to my playlist. How to play it was the first video where I explained how to select voices, but now we are continuing about voice edit. So as I said in the previous video, direct access and harmony DSP, harmony arpeggio button, direct access and harmony arpeggios could give you some selection. Let's go here for a moment. Could give you some selection about the harmony. And we were exploring echo and this nice. Of course, to enable the harmony, you need to, for the selected voice, which is right one, this one we are, and this is this synth sequence one. So this is basically and the echo, tremolo, trill. This is what we have explained in the previous video, but the harmony wasn't working. Why? The reason is very simple. Harmony is working only with the left hand as the key chord, because to play the harmony, the harmonic ingredients on the basic sound that matches the harmony, you need to give on the left hand your basic chord. For example, C major chord, F major, and so on and so on. And if you press it on the left side, on the right side, you got this harmonic effect. So from the one sound, you are able to generate more. Okay, and now let's take a look about the possible harmony effects. So we get standard duet, which is two notes from this three chord basic. So it's a power chord if we are in the naming of the guitars. So if we enable it, we will be able to play it, but I need to put the camera up so you will be able to see. I will be talking what is on the screen if you cannot see it directly, maybe a little bit zoom. But now we are only playing chord on the left side. I will move camera. so you will be able to see what's going on in here. Okay, so we are now in standard duet. I play a chord in here, and what will happen if I am holding this chord and play C, for example, here? So this is the harmonic effect, the power chord. Actually, instead of one note, we are playing two notes. I am losing the left hand, and we get on the standard way, the simple way without the harmonic effect. So this was the duet, this is trio. So the standard triple sound based on the left side, left chord. You can play F chord, something unusual. So basically it always works with the left hand. Of course you can also style the style. Sorry, accompaniment. And in this scenario it also works using a mixer. Let's put some volume down for the style. Why this happened? Because I have OTS link enabled. I started the style, so it changed me into bright piano again. But the basic concept, the basic, as you can hear, if the accompaniment is playing and the quick chord is by simple fingering or full fingering, you have this harmony effect. So let's change it again, right one into guitar. Of course, if I'm doing it too fast, don't worry, check my other videos. Guitars, steel guitar, okay? Without harmony, simple sound. This trio. And let's go back to harmony selection. So direct access, harmony arpeggio, and the harmony effects, there are more instead of trio or full chord. Rock duet, and so on and so on. And the very interesting, which I really like, is this strum. It simulates the guitar strumming. So it's very nice effect. As you can hear, you get the simulation of the strumming guitar. This is basic note. And with this, you get this harmony effect using this harmony arpeggio. I hope it's seen. It's not seen. You have seen it seconds ago. So harmony arpeggio need to be enabled. Harmony arpeggio need to be enabled. And you are playing on the left side the chord. And you get the strumming effect or chord effect or trio and so on. Except the harmony, rest of this effects doesn't need this left hand to work. The only harmony needs left hand because it's very simple. You cannot guess the harmony if you play the simple F note. You don't know which key you want to play. So to give some tip to the DSP processor, you are saying, hey, I'm playing the C major chord, which means I want to be in C major scale. So make me some harmony effects, strumming or trio or duet, using this C major scale. So this is basically the harmony explain why it wasn't working in the previous video. So this is the scales, major and minor scales. I'm using it to improvise in my composition and so on and so on. So you check it. The C major scale. It's very nice to start learning because it only holds these white keys. There is no half of the tones, so we got only full tone, full sound. Okay, so this was about the harmony. The arpeggio effects, the sequencing is on the previous video. I will link into the description. And let's take a look about the screen again, because this is the feature that I wasn't able to see, which was 40 minutes video. Detail button. Detail button is in here, and if you press it, actually this detail button is on the each effect DSP that we have discussed, and you can parameterize the volume, the speed of harmony, which is the assign. It could be automatically, or it could automatically means lastly selected, so there's some guessing by the processor, but in most of the cases you got this automatic. You don't have to manually switch right or multi and so on. So volume is pretty, speed of the strumming, chord note only on. So you have here a lot of possible parameters that you could change. And as I said in the previous video, voices, the DSP effect comes with voices into memory. Using the mixer or by pressing the direct access and DSP, you are able to organize, manage these blocks of effects, so you could attach more effects. In the previous video I was making the distortion, reverb, and I don't remember, modulation effects on one voice. So I made from strings some very crazy sound, but this pair, which is voice plus these effects, could be saved as the voice. And now let's go back to voice edition and this variation button. Some of the voices by the default by presets, so let's enable the right one and select something for the right one. Now we have this steel guitar and these two buttons, effects type and a voice set. Voice set, again, select and voice set button. You are able to see here, and of course not on the command, by using tabs you are going into effects, and you will see that this DSP for this particular voice has this free band equalizer. Variation is off. You can enable it by the default, and by pressing detail you are able to change the parameters. For this free band equalizer you are changing the gain of this equalizer, but this parameter it depends of the effect, so you can change it in here. For example, Flanger. So we enable the basic effects that will be attached into the chain of effects, this DSP 2, 3, and 4, and which one it gets depends on the sound configuration in here. But my experience, my work that I have done shows that it basically selects the first empty blocks. So it put this effects in a mixer. During the loading of the voice, it puts it on the chain 2, 3, or 4, these individual voices. So what's going on with this variation? So the effects called DSP, which is the default effect that will be attached into this sound. Of course, this won't change the voice, which is now saved on this catalog. I need to make a copy to have this, permanent. So I need to make a copy of this voice with this effect, and this could be, called the flanger guitar, for example. So by loading this voice, it loads voice and this effect. Of course, you can also save in the registration memory, because by the default to the memory goes the voices that are in memory and the effects that are in memory, so everything will be saved. About voices and registration memory, I also have a video prepared. So Flanger, which it is actually the default DSP, the first, and on this screen we are only setting one particular default effect. As I said in the previous video, most of the voices comes with one effect only, because this limitation 3 blocks, it is convenient to have one effect per voice by the default, so you never be, disappointed why my DSP effect won't work. Of course, using the mixer, you could add more by the default and make this voice with 3 possible effects. It is also possible. But let's go back to variation. So the flanger is the default effects. By the detail, you could set the parameters of this flanger. Let's change the frequency. And as you can hear now, it's a little bit higher. Let's go down. 0, which means no distortion in the 30 Hertz. This is a flanger. It's an effect that adds some extra harmonic sound. Let's leave it, and let's go back, exit, and enable the variation. And the variation which is proposed, which is possible to make in this DSP flanger by the detail, affects this LFO filter frequency. So let's add more. And what is the effect? Actually, if you have the variation enabled, this LFO frequency will be 144 Hertz, and without this, by the default will be, you need to change it again and press. No, 0 is definitely not 13. Enter. And by the detail, you are able to set this value after enabling the variation. So the variation button actually allows you to make the change in one selected parameter of the effects, but you cannot choose which one parameter you are changing. This is by the default set by the programmer. So for the flanger, it is the frequency, from the equalizer is the gain, and we could also change. So this is standard, this is change. And again, standard, variation disabled, 0.13 Hertz, flanger value, enable, and it's much more, so it's messing. And now I will show you how to save this, steel guitar. So here in voice set, we are in voice set, I remind you, in the effect tab, we are pressing save, and now we are saving voice. And as the other stuff like songs, like styles, we are selecting where we want to save the steel guitar. Let's call it FLA. FLC, all right, let's see, FLC, executing. So this FLC is our voice. We go back to the main screen, and we see that our voice is called steel guitar FLC. Disabled variation button. This delicate flanger 0.13. Enable variation. A little bit more messy. Okay, and to, let's assume that you have made some edits in a voice, and you want to go back again into voice editing of this particular voice that you have in memory. How to do this? You may be confused how to do this, but the trick is very simple. You are pressing the selection button again by pressing it, and it will automatically moves you to the folder, to the file where this voice is saved. If it's in memory, it gives you the origin, the lastly saved file where this voice come from, and you are able again to press the voice set and change this DSP Flanger, let's tempo flanger, tempo phaser, auto wah. Variation disabled. Nothing changed. Let's change the values of the variation, go to detail, and also the frequency. So let's give more. Press enter. With variation more. Without variation less. Less wah 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 effects by the frequency. But if I pressing exit, it will warn you that your voice. Remember, I have saved this voice with flanger effects, and I have changed the effects from flanger to auto wah, and it reminds me by warning, hello, if you save this voice now, disable machine and change voice to another, you will lose your work here. So remember to save it, or you will lose it. So it reminds you to use the save. So if you are happy with the changes of the voice, it's good habit to save it now into memory, USB or internal memory of the device. If you are interested how to save this, not only voices but in general the files, because voices, songs, styles are saved into files. They have different extension, SDI, voice, and so on, but the concept of saving is actually the same. So let's summarize. Today I have shown you how to set up the harmony arpeggio for strumming, so how to make from the steel guitar the guitar with strumming effects by harmony. And now we have this wah wah standard effect saved in here, and as you may notice from the screen which I have shown you in a seconds ago, by editing voice, so using this voice set button, you are able to set the one DSP effect attached to the voice by the default. By the effect type, you are entering this console, which I have discussed in details in the previous video. So by this mixing console, you are able to use another. For example, now I have right one some effects, but let's do some crazy work, and instead on the block number 3 we got this modulation auto wah. This is the default effect. It's actually reserved for the right one. It reserved DSP3, for left it reserved DSP2, and for right 2 it reserved DSP4 by the default. But as I said, you could force to change it using this mixer. So go to block DSP4 and change the partial to right one and select, for example, distortion and some kind of distortion. And now you have distorted and auto wah sound, and by the details in here you could also change the parameters of this distortion. Distortion drive is 3.8. I will change it. For example, let's go down. Overdrive 3 point. Let's give more. Wow, it's pretty loud. So this is the trick. Which I have discussed, maybe not very clear in the first part of the video about the DSP. So let's summarize. In a voice, by the default, you get one effect, and it is loaded into block. For left, it's loaded into DSP2. For right, it's loaded into DSP3, and for right 2 is loaded into DSP4 block. And this is by the default when you are loading voices from the memory. Of course, you can save, you have altered this voice, make some changes into this default voice effect, DSP effect. You could also add variation parameters, which allows you to give more gain, for example, for soloing. In a guitar world, you usually have this pedal to get more gain for solo, for example, and this variation button could be also used for this. So you are playing standard guitar for chords with harmony or not, and then you enable variation and add some gain and play a little bit harder, more distorted sound. Or depending on the voice effect, this variation could alter any other parameters, so you are able to see. Of course, you are also you could override by mixing console. You could add more effects to one particular voice by this voice type, or by pressing mix and enter. This tip here shows you type select, press enter. So this is why you are, by pressing enter, entering this console for this is the main console of effects. Using this console, you actually see what is going on in the DSP processor and what will happen with the sound, how this chain is going through, and which partial it will affect. And of course, if you are browsing your sounds, let's go to the organ, for example, and by each voice which is saved in here, you are able to press this. Hey, what's going on with this zoom? You are able to press this voice set and set, for example, this have variation off, so nothing with the variation, and the default is distortion. Classic jazz. What does classic jazz have? Variation off. Let's find something with variation on. Variation off. Sorry. I need to put the camera, it will be much more faster with two hands. Okay, so I will try to find some voice by the default with this not. Okay, this one called electric organ. By the default, it have the variation called dual rod horn. It's a modulation effect. Standard rotor speed is 0.60 whatever, but the variation is speed control fast. And let's hear how it's affects the sound. Variation is now enabled. I will disable it. Disable variation.